In the last lesson, we concluded our work for the first shot and we still have to go through the render settings, but we'll deal with that after we complete our work on the remaining shots. In this video, we're going to begin our work on the second shot. And before we actually do that, I just want to spend a little bit of time to explain all the workflow that I'm going to follow to create all these shots. So let's begin. Now in here, you can see that inside this first level, I have created this scene for my first shot. And for the second shot, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this level and then adjust all the assets and this entire scene for the second shot. I'm just gonna go into the content browser and duplicate this level by pressing Ctrl D. I'm just gonna save everything and open up this level. And now as you can see, I'm inside level 2 as indicated in here. Okay. And you can also see that, let me just close all these folders real quick. And in here, you can also see that I have exactly the same setup. All the assets are exactly the same. All the lights are here as well. I have the day scene. Okay. I also have the night scene as well. Let me just hide this one. This is the night scene that we have for Lumen. And we have the night scene for path tracing as well. Okay. So everything is exactly the same. Now we're just going to adjust the position of these assets, adjust the scene a little bit for our second shot. Now, for the most part, the lighting is going to be the same as well. Even if we do have to adjust a couple of parameters, we can easily do that in here, and it's not going to have any sort of impact on the first shot because that entire shot is inside level 1. Okay. Whatever change that we make in here is not going to have any sort of impact for the first shot because this is an entirely different level. Now, the plus side of using this workflow is that we don't have to create everything from scratch. We don't have to download all these assets again and, bring them into our project and then design the scene from scratch and do the lighting from scratch and all that kind of stuff. We can simply just adjust the position of these assets, move them around in the scene and, depending on the animation, depending on the camera animation, depending on the animation that we have for our subject, we can just simply adjust these assets and then design the scene for the second shot. Okay. There is actually another plus side, which is that once we adjust all these assets to, for our second shot, depending on the animation that we're going to have for the second shot, once we adjust all these assets, then we can simply just delete the unused assets that we had for the first shot, and then we'll also have some good performance as well. Okay, so it's a pretty straight workflow to be honest, and we're just gonna duplicate these levels for different shots, and then each shot will has its own independent scene, independent level, and they're not gonna have any sort of impact on each other. We can create all these shots in the same project and we don't have to, adjust the project settings again, download the assets, adjust the parameters of those assets, or maybe migrate the assets we want and then do the lighting again. We don't have to do any kind of that stuff. We can simply just duplicate the level and use the same lighting, use the same assets, use the same project settings to create the other shots as well. Now, one more thing that I like to mention in here is that, as I mentioned earlier, that everything is same, all the lighting is the same, the position of the assets, everything that we have in the first shot is exactly the same in the second shot as well because we duplicated the level. But there is actually one thing that is very important for you to know. If I go into this level sequence, you can see that I'm inside level 2. If I open this level sequence that I created in the first level, you can see that we have these red highlights, and if I get closer to my subject, you can see that even if I do move this playhead, I don't see any kind of movement with my camera or with my character or anything else in the scene. You can see I'm moving the playhead, the animation is there, the keyframes are there, but for some reason, the animation is not working. That is because we created this animation inside the first level, not in the second level. Yes, we did duplicate the first level and now we are on level 2, but still it is not going to work in this level. Okay. If I go back into the content and, open up this first level, save everything, and open up the folder and open up this level sequence. Now you're going to see that if I move this playhead, my camera animation is working, my character animation is working as well, everything in its place, and I no longer have those red sort of highlights on these icons. Okay. So that is because this is a level sequence. And we created this level sequence inside the first level, not in the second level. And similarly, if we open up level 2 and create a level sequence inside this level, this is not going to open up in level 1. So please don't freak out if your sequence is not working in the other levels. There is nothing wrong with your level sequence or your project. That is how these things work inside Unreal Engine. One more thing that I like to mention in here is that even if you are in level 2, please don't delete the level sequence for shot 1. I understand that inside level 2, you don't really need the level sequence that you have for the shot 1 because of course, as I said earlier, it's not going to work. But please don't delete it because if you delete it from the content browser, you're going to lose all the working that you did for the shot 1 and then you're not going to be able to find this sequence in any level, okay? Because everything that you have inside your content browser needs to stay inside your content browser in order for it to work with every level. If you delete anything inside your content browser, you're not going to be able to find that in your scene, okay? So you can do anything you want in this duplicated level. Even if I delete this entire scene, it's not going to have any sort of impact on my first shot because this is an entirely different level. But don't delete anything in your content browser, whether it's a level or a level sequence or any other assets, okay? Another piece of advice that I like to give in here before we actually begin our work on the second shot is that you should also create multiple copies of your project file so that in any case, if you somehow mess up your project settings or mess up your assets or maybe lose some assets or any sort of progress at all, having a backup file somewhere in your PC can save the hard work of several days. So without any further ado, let's now begin our work on the second shot. I'm just going to close all these folders and hide the path tracing night scene and the lumen night scene as well. And I'm just going to open up this second level sequence. Let me just move this thing up. I'm just going to delete everything that I have inside this level sequence. I'm going to save everything. And I'm just going to go into the content browser and go into content. And I think I forgot to mention one thing in here, which is that the workflow to create the remaining shot is going to be the same as the first shot. We'll first bring in a landscape into the scene and then design the basic layout and then place a few assets on top and then, bring in a subject that we're going to have for our shot and then, bring in some Minerva assets, then place some foliage, add some more assets and all the stuff that we did in the first shot is going to be exactly the same for the remaining shots as well. Okay. So first up, let's bring in a landscape layer. I'm just going to go in here and, select the landscape and just click on create. It's going to create a new landscape. We don't really need to sculpt on this landscape because I need the surface to be flat for the second shot. So we can just add our landscape and go back to selection mode. And now I can simply select these assets. Let me just go into select and all descendants. Come on. I'm just going to select this folder, go into select all descendants. And now I'm just going to move these assets over here. Rotate it like so. Remember, as long as you've duplicated this level, it's not going to have any sort of impact on your first level, okay? You can freely do whatever you want inside your level. Maybe delete these assets, maybe delete the assets, move them around in your scene, do whatever you want. Just make sure that you have duplicated the level, okay? I'm just going to move these assets here and maybe select these two assets, create a duplicate copy, rotate them like so, like that, and move them here. And I think that is pretty much it. Let me just select all these assets again and, move them just about maybe there. I think somewhere around here is good. Okay. So this is the basic surface of the second shot. And of course, we're going to extend the surface depending on the animation. But for now, I think it looks pretty good. And I think I'm going to position my camera somewhere around here. Okay. So now that we have designed the basic surface, let's bring in our subject that we're going to have for our second shot. Okay, so first up, we're going to use this character for our second shot. This is a very good looking, highly detailed trooper that I found on Sketchfab. And of course, the credit goes to this guy for providing us with this asset for absolutely free. You can see that we have some really good looking quality in here with this asset. And this is what I'm going to use for my second shot. And this is another asset that I'm going to use for my second shot. I'm going to actually place that character over this sci-fi hoverbike. And of course, credit goes to this guy for providing us with this asset for absolutely free. And if you can find something better than this one on maybe Sketchfab or CG Trader or TurboSquid or any other resource, you can use that as well. Because to be honest, the textures on this thing doesn't look so good and not of very high quality. I don't mean to be unthankful in here because this still saves us a lot of time in modeling, texturing and all that kind of stuff. I'm just saying that I wouldn't really use this in a professional workflow. But of course, for the sake of this course and for the sake of demonstration purposes, this works just fine. Okay. So in here, you can just go and click on this button, download 3D model, and download the GLTF file. And the same thing goes with the other character as well. You can simply just go in here, click on this download 3D model, and download the GLTF file. You don't have to download the textures. It comes built in with this GLTF file. You just need to make sure that you download this 3D model. Okay. So that's pretty much it for this lesson. And in the next lesson, we're going to bring in these assets inside Blender to adjust them for our shot. Okay. So I'll see you guys in the next one.